9. So this one's right down the middle with 2.5 out of 5 for me. What about you, Brandon?
John gave Pet Semetary 2 1 star.
I did.
And he gave this one 1.5 stars.
You know what? Because Pet Semetary 2 sucks, right? But Clancy Brown, we talked about this when we talked about it on the earlier episode. Clancy Brown, I'll come back. I would rewatch that just because Clancy Brown is so obviously he knows what he's making, and he just says, "All right, fine. I'm getting a paycheck for this, so I'm just going to enjoy it."
Wow.
So that sort of powers Pet Semetary 2 for me.
Awesome.
And this one, I just found it bland.
Well, I gave this thing 3.5 out of 5 revivals. Because again, and that's exactly what I gave the first one. There was a couple things I didn't like, but I did really enjoy the movie. And I would see it again, not frequently, because that killing his kid like that was pretty uncomfortable. I'm not going to lie. But I liked what they did. I thought they made some brave choices. The thing I'm mostly upset about is the frickin' trailer. Honestly, I really wish they wouldn't have shown the stuff that they did in the trailer. And honestly, I'd probably give this movie a 4 if the trailer didn't ruin it for me, But
I just think on the acting alone, across the board, even though I prefer Fred Gwynne as Judd, I mean, all the kid acting, like Jette Lawrence, great actress. I'm going to keep my eye on her. She was at the little, because she's played such an adorable little girl before she dies, and an excellent job as an undead girl. I mean, that is creepy. Yes. She's like, "Mommy doesn't want me here. That's okay. I don't want her here either." I'm like, "Oh, evil kids." So, I'm still getting over 1.5, John. But okay, but hey, fair enough. This is why these are fun
I'm not
to
taking
talk
anything. Like I said, I'm not taking anything away from the skill, from the talent of these actors. I think that the direction is where things.
These people worked really hard, John. Come on.
You know what? You know who else worked really hard? Me, for the price of the ticket. Okay?
There it is.
There you go.
Oh, I have to say, this is probably my favorite episode of Franchise Fatigue, because I felt we had a good discussion about the changes, the layers, the motivations, all this stuff. And then we get to the end here, and we're just having a good time talking about the ratings. I knew Brandon liked it a lot. This is great, John. I really enjoy podcasting, dude. Talking about movies. You're going to be back more often. This is great. I love it.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm thrilled to be a part of it, and I'm glad that I gave everybody the surprise ending that they were looking for.
There was a better twist because the trailer didn't ruin it.
See, usually I'm the negative guy around here, so I'm just shocked and delighted that I'm just middle of the road into you guys, both extremes.
There you go. There you go.
My heart's just bigger than both of yours. I have a bigger heart.
So, now that we know our ratings, I think I know what you're both going to say. But, John, is this franchise fatigued?
Yes. Sorry.
You don't want to see Pet Semetary 2 2025?
Yeah. Pet Semetary 22. Okay, look, the title might get me in the door, but yeah, I think this franchise is fatigued.
All right, fair enough. I agree with you. I think that this is fine as a remake, but don't make any more. Just stop now. Perhaps do an alternate cut, on a Blu-ray or something. That might be interesting. I'd be very interested to see an alternate version, perhaps expanded with different scenes, different endings. I'm into that kind of stuff. So I'm all for different versions of this movie, but just stop here. I think we are fatigued. Although I am more satisfied with the final product of this remake than you are, I am also going to say it is fatigued. What about you, Brandon?
Well, first, if you're talking about extended cuts and whatnot, I'd totally love to see the Schneider cut of this.
The Schneider cut or the Snyder cut?
The
Snyder cut.
Whatever the guy's name is.
The John Schneider cut.
Who's the guy that did
that
version? One, I don't know. Zack Schneider. What's his name?
Zack Snyder. Yeah.
Snyder. I don't know. Actually, I do think that it is fatigued here, and I think they shouldn't do any more. I think the remake is good. I'm done with this. I think it's okay. I don't need to see a Pet Semetary 2 or a prequel or a remake, or I don't know. I think this is good. So
that worked out so well last time, guys. I don't know why you're so down on the idea of a sequel.
Well, I did enjoy the Pet Semetary 2. I gave it 2.5 stars. That, I liked it. So.
All right. Well, John, seriously, John, it's always a pleasure to podcast with you. If the listeners want to find you out there on the internet, where can they find you?
Well, right now, you'll find me mostly active over on KesselJunkie.com, where I've been writing again. You can find Kessel Junkie over on Letterboxd and Goodreads. And you can find me over on the Nerd Party Network, co-hosting 2 different shows. One show is called Aggressive Negotiations. It's a Star Wars podcast of a slight. We don't do any current news or anything. We do deep dive sort of philosophical takes and looks at certain things. And then I'm also co-hosting a show called Retro Perspective with Mike Schindler. And if you think that my rating of the Pet Semetary remake was harsh, then you should listen to what I had to say about Threesome, starring Stephen Baldwin, Josh Charles, and Laura Flynn Boyle, because boy, did I dislike that movie. So that's where you can find me.
Because you've been off of social media for the bit, you missed my tweet here. But when you and Mike were talking about that black and white film, just a little 2 episodes ago,
Suture.
I'm like, man, I totally want to see this. And you guys are all like, yeah, it's on Amazon Prime. I'm like, sweet. So I go to Amazon Prime and search it up. Like, yeah, not in Canada.
Yep. Sorry, man.
So, sucks being in Canada.
You should see it if you can.
I want to see it. You guys made it sound really good. I want to check it out. Zach, where can people find you when you're not running out into the road?
Well, you can find me on Twitter at MoronZach. That's MOOREONCCH. I'm also the host of my own podcast, Always Soul in the Smallville. We talk about each and every episode of that Young Superman show. You can find us on Twitter at Always Smallville with 1 S. Also host of Standard Orbit, Trek FM's original series podcast. We're talking about all the old and new adventures of Captain Kirk and Enterprise. You can find us on Twitter at Trek FM. And of course, you can find us here on Franchise Fatigue with my friend, Brandon-Shea Matella. Brandon, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Brandon Matella. Over on Trek FM, I host Melodic Treks, which is about the music of Star Trek. And I recently had Zach guest on. We talked about the music of Star Trek 3. You can find me every other week on Warp 5 with my friend Patrick, and we talk about Star Trek Enterprise. Once a month, I cover Alfred Hitchcock films on Good Evening, an Alfred Hitchcock podcast with my friends Chris and Tom. And every once in a while, I poke my head up on the Cinematic Sound Radio Network with an electronic film score podcast called Breaking the Waves. Well, next week we'll be back. Zach and I have a quick little recap episode for the Pet Semetary franchise. And the week after that, our friend Chris Tribuzio is going to join us to talk about The Godfather. So that is our next series. So be sure to stay tuned for that. But until next time, sometimes dead is better.
This has been a production of MTMR Media Works.